Say the words.
Y'all want the first question immediately?
Oh, I was just referencing the book.
You must
The
find the
words.
words.
The
I will
words.
protect
The
those who
words.
can't protect themselves, Ryan. Sure, it's 8
Those are
a.m., but you
those are
gotta
some
know.
of the words.
Some of the words.
I mean, some of the words.
Those are the relevant words for this book.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Roundabout Book Club. We are at y'all again today with Words of Radiance, the second book of the Stormlight Archives. I am helming the video recording this time around again still, because Willer's PC is dead in the water, much like still. Spoilers.
It's still right now.
So
No, that's so sad.
So just going forward, just major spoilers about Words of Radiance. So yeah.
Thank you, Joe. That was
Be
very
warned.
good. I don't know how you could be so productive or like of sharp mind this early, but
I've been up since 6 a.m. and I just read for an hour with
God.
Bringer.
Boy.
So
you're a
He's
fucking
already
weirdo.
part one on book 3 also.
yeah.
We need to make sure he's not spilling the beans on book 3.
I also
Yeah,
finished the
don't-
interludes.
Don't spill the beans, son.
Nah. I got
Bean,
sharp
bean
mind.
boy.
I ain't no fucking Targaryen.
Tarzan.
Avarangi.
Targaryen? No,
Targaryen.
What's his name? No, oh my god, what is his name?
The king.
Caravangian, y'all.
Taravangian. That name is completely ridiculous. I just want to say.
Tarzan.
Tangeranian.
Tangerine.
Alright.
Anyways, as you can see, we're a bit loopy. It's 8 a.m., which is a bit early for all of us to be up on a Sunday. But we got things to do, so we're getting this done now.
Scheduling
Joe is
around
loopy.
5 people
And
is
I've been
hard.
waiting 2 weeks to talk about this book, so I'm pretty excited.
True.
So yeah.
Hey, Ryan, hit us with the first question.
Yeah.
Alright, I'm gonna hit you with the meme first.
Okay.
Okay.
There you go. Okay. Alright, let's start with an easy one. How do you think this book compared with the first one?
I like it a lot more than the first one.
I concur.
I think
I
it's
think-
moments that it was better, but I also feel like it had its moments where I was like, nah, book 1 was better. So
Yeah.
I liked them both pretty equivalently.
I think the vast majority of book 2 is way better. But for me, the ending of book 1 was more entertaining to read.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I think book 1 also. I think book 1, as you can give a book 1 to somebody and tell them to read it, and I feel like they can get a more like emotional and kind of like self-reflecting like response from it because it's so much about depression. Whereas I feel like
Yeah.
book 2 is just more of let's just like hype moment about the series.
I concur. It's also a lot of completing of plot lines set up in book 1
Mm-hmm.
in a way that I think is really satisfying. But Ryan, which one do you like better?
I like the second book better. I just felt like I was constantly entertained. Like there wasn't one huge moment like the end of book 1, but there were so many small moments and they
mean-
were set up throughout the book.
To
I think
me,
it's so weird y'all say that. I think this is such a climactic end.
the hype moment or the big moment in this book is in the middle with the Colosseum fight. I feel like
That's
man.
Yeah,
Thing
I
of the
think that
book.
was the best.
like
that was the best,
One of the
best
best.
part of the book.
yeah, honestly,
But
like
it-
if the book ended there and it kind of just like ended on that cliffhanger and then another book followed and that was the other half of this book, I would have been like so hyped to read that third book. Do you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
was like when I got to that part and finished it, it's like, all right, we gotta move ahead. This is shit's getting wild and great.
Wow, I can't believe how alone I am in my feelings towards this finale, but we'll get there later.
Oh, you could talk about it.
No, I'm sure there'll be a question where it's more applicable, but
Alright.
yeah.
Okay, another small question then. Now that it has developed more, what do you think of the magic system in the series? You like it? Dislike it?
Ooh.
Is it alright?
I mean, I think in book 1 or book 2, I'm sorry, we only really see more of Shalon and Kaladin do their powers. But I did really, really like Shalon's powers. I
Yes.
really like. Seventh was it's just Kaladin's powers as well.
Yeah.
But I like
True.
Shalon's powers and like the illusion magic and stuff like that. I thought that was a really cool way of giving her something that was unique and different, but like still very much useful.
You can go first, probably.
I think probably the most interesting aspect of it to me so far is that these are incredible abilities, but like the balancing factor is you have to swear these oaths, and that makes potential bad guys so much more terrifying to me because if they get one of these honor blades, they have these amazing powers without the downside of having to adhere to an oath.
That'll never
Um,
happen.
So yeah, I think that's just really cool.
Never, ever.
True.
I actually find that like after learning a bit more, I should have tempered my expectations a little bit because I think there's a thing where they mention where there's technically like 10 powers, and each of the 10 radiant houses, that is not the right way to say it, only uses 2 of those, right?
Yeah.
So it's like a combination of the 2 for each house. So it actually feels more limiting than I thought it would have been. But the whole bonding with the sprint idea, I think, is really cool still.
Yeah.
And also the honor blades is also pretty neat.
Yeah, I like the system a lot. I think Brandon Sanderson does a great job explaining it because I know a lot of fantasy books like can sometimes just like not make it clear on kind of what's happening, and I feel like he does a very good job. I think my favorite part is just like the limitation also of having enough Stormlight to
Oh,
do these
yeah.
things. Because
Right.
like yeah, you're cool and powerful, but like if there's no Stormlight, then you're kind of fucked.
You're basic. Yeah, that's a good point.
So I mean, it was cool to see like Kaladin like have all the Stormlight and feel very powerful, and then like when it's gone, he's like, oh shit,
Yeah.
what was I like without this before?
Yeah, it
So
started
I think it was
feeling like
interesting.
it started feeling like his new natural, which I thought was cool.
Can you get addicted to Stormlight?
Yes, I'm sure.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah, I
Probably.
think I think what I liked most about the magic system is how integrated it is with the world building and the story. Like a
Mhm.
lot of fantasy books are like, here's the world, here's the story, and then the magic is like the tools they have within that story. But I feel like in Stormlight, it's an essential plot point of
I
like where this
Yeah.
magic is coming from, why it's
Yeah.
returning.
yeah. I also
And I
really
thought
like
that was really interesting.
to break off of this, like to bounce off the Stormlight aspect of it, because like during the portion of this book, you have Navani who's also like researching other ways to use Stormlight.
Yeah.
So I really like that the society is based around this magic system. Not even though not everyone has the ability of like the Radiance, like Stormlight is still essential to this world.
Yeah.
And we learn a lot more. Like, oh, it's used to do just a bunch of other different things too. And so you kind of get an idea that even if like you weren't Radiant, why this is important. Because all of book one, people talk about charging up the spheres, and you're just like, who cares? Why are people doing this every storm?
Yeah. Well, and I think is even at that point in the story, the people didn't know. It's like an
Yeah.
old thing that when there were Radiants like 500 years ago, they wanted those charged up spheres, but now they have no idea why.
At a base level, it's made pretty clear that you can use the spheres as light bulbs. at
Yeah.
least.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Which is fine, but like it just it feels like, man, you like, to me, well, like when they were first describing like leaving your spheres out, that just seems like a great way for a thief to figure out how to like just go around and just start pocketing all these spheres people leave out in the storm.
And
Like-
dying.
Yeah, and maybe probably dying, but
Probably die.
but like
Unless, of course, he's Stormblessed.
yeah.
Ooh. Kaladin, the little sphere.
Yo,
thief.
Kaladin can make so much money.
Yo.
He's already pretty rich. Like now he with the spheres, I do think like if the high storms were ever to fully end, the characters would be shit out of luck. So
I feel like
if Sanderson wanted to do like
Mhm.
if Sanderson wanted to do like a huge midpoint twist in that part 5, it's like all the magic is dead in this world now, and they have to figure out a way to bring it back or something. That'd be interesting.
Man, he already killed God. Now you want him to kill magic?
Yeah. I feel like either that's like either gonna happen in book 3, which I'm currently reading, or it's like kind of like the end of the series where it's just like
When I had that in mind, I was
Yeah.
like, that could be an interesting thing to happen at the end of book 5.
uh-huh.
But we'll see. Where like maybe instead of like High Storm, Everstorm, it's just always Everstorm.
The
and,
Storm.
Like, the world's just fucked.
Willard
Yeah.
is so pessimistic.
Well, I'm just thinking of ways. To
Listen,
heighten
you
the
go
tension.
through-
Look, no, it's fine.
You go through 9 years of Game of Thrones, you can only think that worse is gonna happen.
This isn't even Game of Thrones bad. I don't. It's like it's not like the writing's bad. It's just like, oh, if he wanted to fuck over the characters. This
No,
is
I
what he
mean
would
like
do.
pessimistic world bad, not
Oh,
the
yeah.
writing is bad. Like just like assuming like in Game of Thrones everyone's gonna die anyways. You're like whatever.
Yeah. Another Ryan.
All right, y'all. You want the big one?
Yeah.
The big one.
Sure.
Who is your favorite character in book 2?
Okay, I got this one.
Yeah.
All right. In the Kaladin book, I was like, man, Shalon's pretty freaking cool. In the Shalon book, I'm like, there's no questions asked. It's Kaladin. It's so Kaladin. So funny how that works, but
Yeah.
there's a stretch of chapters I have dubbed the God Stretch, in which Kaladin stole my heart. Actually, like throughout the book, I think he was great. He had some of the better character conflicts.
Mhm.
Actually, the best character conflict by far. And a lot of the interesting plot points revolved around him, and his side cast of characters is also the best. And I could go on, but yeah, it's Cal.
Kaladin's got to be the number one, man. I love that fucking boy.
Man, Calvin's great, but like I think Calvin definitely has a stronger the stronger like story in this, at least for me. Like I think his conflict is much better and great. Like Shalon's backstory is interesting, it's very mysterious.
Yeah.
But like I think Calvin definitely like just for me was much better than that. But like Dalinar in this book has just moments every time that he comes out and does something. I'm like, holy shit, you're big brained sometimes. It kind of shocks me.
Do you remember any? Because I went through this book and I was like, man, Dalinar is definitely in the backseat this time.
Oh, he definitely was much more. He was much more in the backseat this time. But like at the very end, where like he sets Armorin up to be like the in charge of the Radiance, just so he can figure out if he can call him out or not, was just I think great.
Yeah.
Y'all, Dalinar caught a shard blade in this book.
Also, Dalinar got a shard blade in
Yo,
this
Oh
book.
my god, the blade catch was, I forgot the like, in part 1 or 2 was the assassin fight. That was so cool.
I was like, yo, what? Y'all forgetting my man catching the shard blade? I think he's so dead when that happened. Like, the beginning of book 2, I
Dude,
was like, okay, how is this
I-
gonna kill
does it
Dalinar?
too.
Yeah.
Doesn't Cal do it too?
I think he
so
does
cool.
against Zeth.
It's
But
in the Shardblade
Also,
fight.
another character that I really liked in this book was the Shoni. I thought she was a great character too. And she's just,
Shania? Yeah.
Ashnai. She's just like an interlude character, but I thought it was really cool to see that side of the Parshman and Parshindi and like seeing what she was going through and like
So-
having her walk out into the storm and come out a completely different person.
Yeah, like her changing character is the aggression of storm form. Yeah,
Yeah.
like it's influencing her negatively.
Yeah, she bonded with an
Uh-oh.
anger sprint.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
think it's like
okay.
straight influencing her. I think it like took over her mind.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But that was so sad when the Stormfather's like, "Do you really want this? Like, do you know what you're doing?" And she's like, "No, I don't think I want this." And then he's like, "Well, it's
Not
too
well.
late.
Too late.
Sorry."
I also like really like that it kind of like is almost reflective of like Kaladin, where like Kaladin like went into that storm and was birthed into a new heroic man, and then Shoni went in and was born like this just antagonistic, vengeful like being afterwards. So I thought that was really neat.
Yeah, I felt really bad for Eshonai. She was
Yeah.
like a genuinely
She
good
also
person.
like got the worst like death. She just gets kicked off the fucking side of a chasm.
She's not fucking dead.
There's no way she's
You
dead.
guys, it's like if y'all thought Yasna was dead, you're a fool if you think Ashina is dead. Come on now.
I tried to convince you.
you tried. I was on to you. I was like, there's no way.
So my favorite character in this book, Cal is just like overall my favorite character. I
Yeah.
agree with like all of y'all's things, but someone else that I really enjoyed in this book was Adolin, and I think
Yes.
Oh.
his relationship with Shalon
That
and
too.
with Kaladin like solidified him as a character in this book. And so I really appreciated like all the moments, and I feel like even just the part that I've read from book 3, like he's growing to be like one of my like absolute favorites. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
So most improved, easily. I mean, I already liked Adolin. I was
Mhm.
like on the small camp. I was like, oh, I thought Adolin was cool in book 1, but in book 2, he's like undeniably one of the
Yeah,
coolest.
he
I-
shot way up the ranks.
His arrogance, I love seeing him in his like prime of what he loves doing, like the dueling, and just seeing his
Oh.
arrogance come out. I was like, oh man, you're gonna get your shit
Oh,
kicked
he-
in.
But he did it. He's a god.
But his-
in the,
but-
in the ring.
But it also got shot himself in the foot because he said that thing about
Hmm.
about fight whoever or whomever.
Yeah.
So, but no,
I mean, Adolin's hot, but he's kind of dumb too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He's huge himbo energy. but
Big
I
himbo.
really like
I
him.
love me a good himbo.
Oh, yeah.
I know Bradley.
That's one of the best archetypes.
And then while Kaladin is my favorite, two characters that have the potential to be my favorite, but it just doesn't feel right because they don't have the screen time is Zeth and Lift. I really love them.
Lift I really enjoyed. Her
Yeah,
interlude is
Lift
one of my
was good.
favorite interludes.
I would
That's great.
definitely recommend Edge Dancer for Lift's story because I feel like it puts a whole nother layer to her. And I know from the end of Edge Dancer that she does make an appearance in either book 3 or book 4.
Yeah,
So
because
understanding her a bit more and kind of why she is the way she is
Mm-hmm.
helped. Like I really like her a lot more than I did in the interlude, which was still a lot.
not only does Edge Dancer like make her an actual character, it's like you kind of get a little bit of her backstory and motivations and why she does what she
Yeah.
does, why she
Mhm.
takes the oaths she does.
Yeah, her oaths are actually really cool too, so I would 100% recommend just
Like,
to know
cool.
what her oaths are.
Aside from that, like I was reading the afterword from Brandon Sanderson, and he's like, "There's really two really important things I need to do for the series." Because he's like, number one, he's like, "I'm grooming Lift to be a really important character later on," and he's like, "I want to give her the backstory, but he's like, I can't break from the main character's story for
Mm-hmm.
100 pages to give her that." So he's like, "I want to write the novella," and at the same time, he's like, "I really wanted to do this thing with the Herald of Justice." And he's like, it would be really weird if off screen between book 2 and book 3, he had his like entire personality and goals and motivations changed. He's like, I need that to happen on screen somewhere. So he's like, oh, I can do both of these in this book.
Nice.
Funny enough, I know we're kind of diverting from book 2, but he intended for this novella to be 17,000 words, and it ended up being 40,000 because he wanted to share a little bit more about her story. And
That's just classic Sanderson.
Yeah.
You know,
Like,
yeah.
it's
I'm
like
per-
thinking that I'm like, damn, okay, I can
I'm
appreciate
used to authors lying to themselves about
Yeah.
length of things.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure at that point that's a novel, not a novella. But hey, whatever.
But I really enjoyed reading Lift and Lift's story.
Another
I'm
character.
excited to see her come back.
Yeah. Another character that we didn't bring up that I want to bring up is Pattern.
Oh,
Yes,
dude,
Pattern still are
Pattern
always
cracks me the
MVPs.
fuck up.
Pattern, I thought, like, immediately was just so fucking funny.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, when I read him, none of y'all have played Mass Effect, but he sounds like Legion from Mass Effect in my brain, so he has this very, like, robotic voice, but very, like, naive kind of sounding. And
Oh, the voice actress the female reader usually does pattern, and she kills that voice. It's basically a robot.
Okay.
The way Joe described it is like exactly how the audiobook reader does it, robotic and naive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's but I think that's a great character, especially for Shalon, and especially I think going forward, because like Shalon is dealing with a lot of like personal things in this book about, and like the things that she tells herself. So I think it's a great way for her to explore like her like thinking dynamic and like the lies that she's told herself and other people, and like what is she like hiding, and like why do we do these certain things to hide like other parts of us. So I just really liked them in general.
It's basically a way to do the robot learning about humanity plot line in a fantasy setting. And
Yeah.
I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I like the almost antagonistic nature Pattern takes with Shalon near the end, where he's like really forcing her to come to terms with what she did.
Yeah.
And how that impacts their relationship in early book 3 has also been interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Also, he's hilarious in early book 3.
Oh,
No
God.
meeting.
Best scene in book 3 as far as that one.
No meeting.
It's so fucking funny. If we're also talking about like side characters right now, and I don't know if there will be a better time. During book 1,
Yeah.
the characters of Renarin and Elokar were my like stealth picks for characters I was most interested in, because they both have the character archetype that usually grows in a way that I really like. So Elokar is the pathetic king. I love pathetic characters. There's just something about their growth that just hits different.
Mm-hmm.
And Renarin is the meek boy who is mostly brains over bronze, so I've always wanted to see him do more. And I feel like I definitely got exactly what I wanted. Actually, even more with Renarin, because he's also a Radiant on top of all this in book 2. But especially with Elokar. Elokar was excellent in this book.
Mm-hmm.
As minor as his role was, I feel like he already is showing the signs of a very interesting arc.
Yeah.
And then the minor book 3 stuff too is looking good for my boy.
I think Elokar and Daliner's like relationship has been like one of the earliest seeds that like Sanderson planted, and you could definitely see like the line of like that plot thread through these two books and more into book 3. So I think that's very interesting. I really like Elokar's role in this book too, where it's just like coming to terms, like what do you do with someone that you know that is not fit for the job kind of deal, but you have no one else to give it to. But like, and which is not necessarily the best analogy, because when someone's not fit for the job, you just fire them. You don't go and try to murder them.
Or you take over the kingdom, right?
Yeah.
But because of the unique circumstance of Dalinar and Elokar's relationship, you're given a very unique king story that you don't see in a lot of other fiction, I feel like.
I agree with that.
Yeah, and I defended Elokar in book 1, and now I feel slightly vindicated. He's still a little shit,
He is,
but I love my little shit.
man, when he got drunk at the end, I was like, oh, I'm sorry, bro.
That is the exact start of the God stretch, is that chapter.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe what I was reading.
Yeah, also, I mean, I think that there were so many scenes in here that I'm like, yeah, that's my favorite. I'm like, no, that's my favorite.
Yeah, exactly.
There's
no,
so
this
many
one's
good
genuinely.
scenes in this book.
And this is why I'm like, I'm surprised y'all weren't as wowed by the finale, because the finale, the Kaladin portion of it, it starts with that scene where he walks into his house and Elokar's there drunk, and he's like, he actually uses the words like, "This is a surreal experience."
Yeah, I felt that way. I felt that way when reading it. I was like,
Yeah.
It almost didn't feel real. I feel like Sanderson might just write differently, and I'm like, is this a dream or is this real? It does feel surreal.
Yeah. I agree with you, Willard. That Kaladin section of the climax, I think was like probably the best, especially when he's in this like fort or castle that wherever they're staying, and like he's dealing with Moash and whatever his name is.
So this is the only stretch of the book of either book I've reread. I just got home one day. It's like I just need to feel what I felt that day again.
Oh
So
man, it's a drug.
It was kind of rough. I threw chapters 80 to 84, 1.5 speed, and I just laid in bed. I was like, yeah. I skipped the other people's stuff. I just did the Cal stuff, though, because it kept cutting back and forth. Because I just wanted to get the through line, because the way that scene plays out is you have the drunken confession, and then you have Kaladin soul searching, and then you have Kaladin acting.
Yeah.
And each one of those parts is so expertly crafted that, like, my cinematic eye, I feel like I was in tune with what Sanderson was seeing as he was writing. Because, like, if I was to direct a scene and want to see it in live action out of any of the books, it would actually be this stretch of chapters with Kaladin. Uh, I don't want to derail the conversation too much, but there's some really cool stuff that happens, I think, when he's soul searching that I found was really interesting on a reread.
I really like the final connection that he makes that makes him realize like why what his guilt was. It's like, oh my god, Dalinar's doing exactly what I did for Tien, and I am actively going to ruin it for him.
It was really complex because he's like, it's not just Elokar trying hard. It's not just Tien. It's like the idea of if I protect people, if I don't protect people I don't like, then I'm not a protector at all.
Yeah.
And that really clicking with him was such a cathartic moment. Especially because it happened in the rain while he's outside swinging the spear. He's like, man, I fucking suck with the spear. Was I ever good? Because Syl's dead at the time.
Yeah.
And he's literally yelling out loud, he's yelling his frustrations out loud, and like the Ardents can hear him, so he's pretty much confessing to everyone. And I mean, I guess I'll also get into what I thought was cool before that. When I was rereading, a thing I was really looking out for was, why did they have that thing about the sand? Like, go into the spiel about how the whipping washes the sand. And I feel like it's basically just a metaphor for that. The weeping was also used to cleanse Kaladin's soul because he was carrying a lot of burdens morally throughout the book. And the weeping's usually his lowest point. But after Zael explains to him that like the weeping is also used to wash the sands and how no one thinks that that's something that needs to be cleansed, Kaladin starts doing his little training things with the spear and really makes a breakthrough in his emotions and how he feels. And like you can pinpoint the moment in which the weeping cleanses his conscience. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. But yeah, that like to me that's the best stretch of the book, so I just wanted to hijack some time for it. Because it also solidified Kaladin as like a god tier character. And then the following, like he has the fight with Moash, which is super emotional because Sil comes back, and then he becomes Super Saiyan, flies to the Shattered Plains, and has the coolest fight in the series so far. So just like all catharsis.
His entrance there was awesome. He just comes down with Dalinar like, hey, what's up? It's me, your boy.
Yeah.
Which will also throw in that Zeth's kill on Dalinar was so good, where he just touches him. He's like, it's done. I win.
Yeah. He just tosses everyone aside like they're 6-year-olds.
Wow.
Very
Just
cool.
walks up to Dalinar and tosses him in the air.
All right.
Ask us a question, Ryan.
Yeah.
Ryan answer?
Oh, yeah.
I haven't.
Go
Had
ahead.
to be kind of quick. I think. Well, first of all, is it cheeky if I say Yasuna?
Yes.
Yo.
Okay,
Total of
heard
2
that, but-
chapters in the book.
Yeah.
I feel like y'all already know who my favorite character is, but for most improved is definitely Adolin. I didn't think he was that great in book 1. But his relationship with Shalon was really fun. But for me, what really got me was the relationship with Kaladin.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's a true romance.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously, it's a really good bromance.
I-
Because Kaladin's just that character that you are always rooting for. Like, I just
Yeah.
want everything to go well for Kaladin.
I-
And so immediately I'm like, okay, I want Kaladin and Adolin to be friends. Like, that's
Yeah.
gotta happen. But they actually hate each other at the beginning. Like, they just don't trust each other. Kaladin's like, this is some stuck-up light eyes. Which Adolin kind of is a little bit, right?
It totally is.
But
But
he's so much nicer to the peasants
yes, he
than
is.
all the
He
other
is.
Lightites.
But he's still he like orders people around. He's still very kind of bossy.
And arrogant.
And just watching their friendship slowly blossom, and then you realize how like really honorable Adolin is when you see him in the prison with
Yeah.
Kaladin just
Mhm.
sitting
that
Oh,
there.
was so
man.
He's like,
sweet.
I refuse to leave.
This book is nothing but bangers. Like,
So-
Yeah.
this is
It
part
is.
great.
It is a good
I-
book.
Also, y'all were talking about like who your favorite part at the ending was. Honestly, it might have been Adolin for me. Like
Actually,
he's
that's the
he's on the
runner-up.
front lines charging. His horse gets blown up by magic,
Yeah.
like lightning, and then he fights Eshonai on the edge and gets saved by the Bridge Boys. Like that was such an epic
I
moment.
wanted
for
to
me.
bring up his relationship with the Bridge Boys because it feels like an extension of his
Yes.
relationship with Kaladin, where it's
Yeah.
like, no, you guys have real value and you're getting a raise because you guys are fucking badass.
Oh, I love how they're actual characters, right? They're
Yeah.
not just Kaladin's boys.
Yeah, they're all
Mhm.
distinct.
What-
But for my actual favorite character, it's still Shalon. I love Shalon in this book, and
Fair.
it's not really her backstory; it's her like main story in the timeline. I
That
just
was-
love how
that
she
was-
has no confidence. Like when she's not in danger at all, she's like convinced that
Mhm.
she sucks at everything. She's like, I'm gonna mess it up. I'm no Yasna. But whenever shit hits the fan and she knows like, okay, I have to step up or we're all screwed, she steps up every single time. And she doesn't even know she's doing it sometimes. She's like convincing these thieves and runaways to join her side, and she's using her powers to just like make herself look a little bit cooler,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
To be a little bit taller, and she
With all
doesn't
the
even
bigger
realize
boobs.
she's doing it.
Well, that's the lie that she tells herself, that
Yes.
she's not able to like do all these things, but in the end she's able to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and she's like the character that has no confidence, but I feel like she's the most able character in the series right now. Like she's good at everything.
A cool thing with this book is how each character really starts to embody their Sprin's like
Oh,
type.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Like Shalon's story is all about lies to other people and herself, and Kaladin's giving a major like honor conflict to work through.
Yeah.
So I think that's really cool. Also, back to Adolin and Kaladin real quick. Something I really like about their dynamic is that Adolin really highlights the flaws of Kaladin as a character,
Yeah.
in which he's a grumpy, like whiny little bitch
Yeah.
sometimes. And I like that. I like
vice
bringing our
versa.
boy back down a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Kaladin's like, this is some noble fuckboy. I don't want to deal with him. Like you see the flaws of both
Yeah.
sides,
Yeah,
and I love that. All right, y'all ready for the next one?
Yes.
Yeah.
he's right.
Let's do which scene stuck with you the most? We've talked a little bit about that, but now
I
you
went
can
through
talk more
mine.
about your favorite scene.
Many.
Yeah.
But I think I'll start. Two of my favorite scenes. The first one would be the chapter where it goes back and forth between Shalon and Kaladin using their powers. I feel like this is the moment in the book where it's like they finally have come to accept that they have powers and they can do great things with them. So like Shalon is using her powers to sneak into this house, and how she's going to do that and what she can do. And then Kaladin is flying through the canyons, and
Oh.
it's just so like symmetrical in the way that they're like using and learning and I don't know how to make it make sense, but like it I don't know, it fit right. It was a really good moment. Then my second scene is when they're together, they've fallen down the canyon, and
Yes.
they're in the cutout rock.
Mm-hmm.
Such a good
Oh.
scene because I feel like they both know there's something odd about the other, but they won't say it. And then just the whole scene with the Voidbringer, or not the Voidbringer, the Chasm Fiend, and the Shark Blade, and it was like that. All that scene was just so good.
Yeah, that was another great stretch, and that would be my backup scene. I won't go over the God stretch again, but what really stuck with me in that scene, and I posted in our chat, was and the quote, "And she smiled anyways." And it might be the way that the book reader read it, but it felt like such a revelation or like a clicking of themes for the story when it's read in the audiobook format. I don't know if Bradley listened to that one, if he agrees, or if he read that part of the book, but it just felt like such a huge moment because it's like she went through all of this, maybe more than me in certain ways, because like the emotional trauma there was just so much higher for her. Um, but despite all of that, she can still smile and get through it. And from that point on, Kaladin really starts to change for the better, I would say. And it really highlights it again when Syl is back and he gives her a very broad smile, like his first true smile in the series. I feel like, and it just made me connect the two scenes where it's like they're getting past their trauma, and maybe the theme here is that like through finding their place in their world with their abilities, they're able to truly smile and carry on, something to those lines. But yeah,
Well,
that also.
And so I read that part, obviously, and I agree. Like that sentence, like it really struck home because, like, for me, it wasn't more about overall their picture. It was just more like Kaladin finally realized, like, you know what, it's okay to have a shitty past. It's really what I do with the future and how I can make it better, just by remaining more positive and more hopeful. Like that's what I kind of got from the scene.
Yeah. Definitely.
Like Shalon has had this horrible past and she still continues to smile and put on a face and do what she needs to do. And here I am whining about it, you know, instead of making changes. So I that scene was by far I don't know, there's so many good scenes because I could also talk about the arena fight.
Sure,
Well,
someone else will take over on that.
In that scene, I think also Kaladin realized that he wasn't alone.
Yeah.
Like there's someone just as messed up and depressed as he is, and he can talk about it with her, which he does.
I think
And I think that really helped both of them.
I think that's also the point where like Kaladin kind of realizes that like he needs to stop seeing everybody as like light eyes and dark eyes and just needs to start seeing people as people, you know, because it's like she's like high and mighty princess, quote unquote, but she went through all this trauma and trouble as before as much as I have. So like is anyone really that different from like each other in terms of like who they are if like everyone has to go through trauma themselves?
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. It's like, yes, there are problems that a Light Eyes will never have to worry about that a Dark Eyes does, but everybody has problems in life.
Yeah.
You know?
Yo, Shalon's problem is low-key worse.
Yo.
Man, her flashback's fucked up.
Yeah.
He saw his brother die. She straight up killed both of her parents.
Yeah. Psycho with like
missing...
just a choke out like a mafia boss. Like, holy shit.
She's one up in Kaladin. Yeah.
We're missing the key point here. It's also the exact moment where Kaladin falls in love, guys. Come on.
Oh, you're gross,
man.
Nasty.
Like, you could pinpoint it to a single line in that book, and I think that's always neat.
Whenever Adolin and Shalon were strolling by off in the distance, and Kaladin stood up hoping Shalon would look at him, I was like, man, we've all been
there.
Man, give him a hug. Oh, and Bradley, what are your favorite parts?
Man, so I hadn't thought about this question ahead of time, but just on a whim, I think the scene I've replayed the most in my head is Kaladin fighting Zeth up in the air, racing westward across the world.
The skies are mine.
Because, man, like, this is the fight I've wanted to happen since the beginning of book one. It's like, you read the very first chapter with Zeth or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And then it's like, Kaladin's our main character, so I was like, I need Kaladin to fight Zeth. Like, it's gotta happen. And it finally happened, and it was, like, so much cooler even than I imagined it. And I also just love the aspect where it is the story that Wit was telling, that, you know, Wit's like, no, this is the story Kaladin's telling. And, you know, Wit was giving Kaladin the choice of how to end it, and Kaladin had to make a really hard choice on how to end this story. And I just think that's so cool. And then, you know, from there, Ryan's like, I wonder if the story in book one relates to anybody. And I was like, oh my god, that story in book one is it's about Zeth, and I love Zeth. So I love the Zeth versus Kaladin.
I love Wit.
Wit's great. With low
Yeah,
key,
Wit-
like best like fifth character.
Wit's growing on me. He annoys me with how he confuses me, but I'm also like, man, I love you, Wit. With the Fleet thing, he also mentions Fleet as he and Alucard are dying and facing Moash. He's like, I ran as far as I could.
Oh,
He's little did he know then that he would keep running further.
Mhm.
But I think what's cool about that Zeth fight is that it is. So when I picture the Zeth Kaladin interactions throughout the series, right? I was picturing like a round 1, round 2, round 3 situation. No, round 2 is exactly what you picture for the final round. They're using their powers at their full strength. They're going nuts. It's like, oh, I didn't realize this would happen in book 2.
What, we're doing this now?
Yeah, I thought this was book 5 thing. Yeah, it was
I
very shocking.
I thought it was really funny because like I had the physical edition and like I looked at the cover and on the back said this is just there facing off against Kaladin on the cover. I was like, oh, I guess he
Oh.
just shows up.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like, all right. He has like a pile of bodies that he's standing on too. Oh,
All right.
yeah,
I'll send a picture.
yeah. I was just about to send
Thank
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Daryl, what's your favorite?
So I think, so this is really weird because it's kind of the same thing. So the one that stands out to me is like really small moment. It's not really that small, but it's when Syl tells Kaladin to hold out thy hand.
Yeah.
That's just a very classic, the hero pulling the blade from the stone kind of moment, that I crave in my life. So the fact that it's the point where Kaladin realizes he has to accept what he has to do and what it means to like be radiant essentially, and that like you're going to have to take up arms for people that you may not like, and then I just thought that whole moment was just fantastic because it was a great like kind of wrapping up of Kaladin's character. I feel from like part 1 of book 1. The other one is when Dalinar bonds with the Stormfather at the end.
yeah.
Same as the end of book 1.
Yeah, it's just really. I just think that's really cool, and I really like the fact that like the Stormfather's like you can't use any like shard blades. Like I'm not letting you do that. I thought that
We'll
was
see about that, buddy.
a big like kind of like interesting point I found. Because like all of y'all have mentioned like all the other parts, so like I just want to point these 2 points out. Because I was really interested to see like where Dalinar is going to go from here. Because as we like go through these 2 books, Dalinar gets more and more stripped in his combat ability, right? Like he like starts out with shard plate and his shard blade, and then he has to like throw away his shard blade, and then he gives up his shard plate to I think Renarin, if I'm right, or someone else.
Renarin,
Yeah. So like he's just like getting rid of like as much like combat things that he has to the point now where like he is bonded with God himself or as close to, but like he cannot like protect himself on the battlefield now.
Well, I'm sure with Stormlight he can fight like a younger man. We haven't really seen it or anything like that.
I think the point is that he's like retiring his fighting years and he's
Yeah.
a general now.
Yeah. But I like those 2 moments because they were pretty much the opposite of each other, where it's like Kaladin's the one taking up the arms, whereas Dalinar is the one that's throwing them away.
I guess I got the wrong read, because I was like, why would they focus on him having Stormlight and also like learning his own abilities if he's not going to eventually fight with them? Maybe not as a front line, but I can't imagine that
Well-
he's not done with like significant fights.
He's called a bondsmith now. So I'm very interested to see.
I can bond my knife to your gut. None of us talked in depth about the arena fight, but I think everyone here can
MVP
agree.
it.
Yeah.
I think everyone else,
I was
everyone
about
can
to
agree it's
also.
like top 3 at least, right?
Yeah.
Well, just
God.
one line where Kaladin's so edge boy Batman is like, honor is dead,
Honor is
and then
dead.
he walks forward and jumps in. I was like, okay, Cal. At the same time, I'm like, all right, buddy.
I
That's a
just
good one.
I think that scene was the most hype scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my other favorite scenes are more like emotionally driven, I guess. Where
Mhm.
this
Yeah.
scene was just like it was so hype. I was like, everyone has to read this scene right now. It is so good. Like I was there. I was in the arena. Like I was watching Kaladin fight, and it like favorite scene in terms of actiony plot point. Like it was so good.
I think also though, like it's the moment where Adolin and Kaladin also kind of realize that they have some sort of same wavelength that they can think on. Like they both look at the High Princess and just see how ridiculous they are, and they cannot comprehend why they are not cooperating, right? Or why they are not being honorful or being the best they could possibly be, because and they're doing it for different reasons. Whereas like Kaladin has like feels like traumatized by like Amaram and all the other things that happened to him, so he's upset about what has happened to him. Whereas Adolin is just very much is like, my dad is doing everything he can to like help y'all out, and y'all are just ignoring him, and y'all need to like get your heads on straight. But yeah, I just like that scene itself is just really good.
I think another thing that I appreciated a lot was Rinnerin was just standing there.
Oh.
And
Poor boy.
Like I know that like inept. And then later you find out it's because of the dead Spren and the sword. And so it's like it's the pieces like that that kind of connect the two to me. Like later on in the book, that I was like, okay, all right, I forgive you for not doing anything.
Yeah,
it's. I was never mad even without that, because come on, he's like clearly untrained, but he's standing up for his brother, and I felt so
It's honestly a really badass moment for him to jump in there to try to save his brother. Like he has no confidence, and also his sword is screaming at him.
Yeah,
he's still doing it, and that's what's great.
There's so Ryan would show us artwork whenever we would get to like certain points in the book, and there's an artwork where there's Adolin and Kaladin like back to back being badass, and then in the background you just see Rinnerin on the ground, just like, all right, I'm done.
Oh, when Renarin sticks his neck out, it's like, just do it, just kill me. I'm like, no.
Also, the fact that just it's nothing like really kind of like super like deep about it, but the fact that when Kaladin just takes one of the helmet pieces and just shoves it on his hand like a boxing glove, so cool. I was like, oh, that's fucking great.
There are many times during work where Bradley and I will talk about the dropkick scene, because it's just the coolest thing.
That was the best move ever.
Oh,
like
he flew him across the stage, right?
Yeah.
Kaladin uses gravity powers to dropkick the dude so hard it not only shatters a part of his blade, but also shatters his own goddamn legs. That was the most metal shit. I loved it. I have a soft spot for dropkicks, I suppose.
Dropkicks cool. It happened.
Your favorite part.
So honestly, it was that scene we just talked about. Honor is dead, but another one is Syl arguing with the Stormfather.
Yeah.
I love that scene because I love Syl, and she's like, "No, you can't stop me, Dad.
You're not my dad."
I like this guy. Yeah, she's like, "You're not even my real dad."
I'm gonna take a human dad.
And then I really like the scenes where people realize that Shalon is a Radiant, and that happens a couple times. Like first when she shows or gives Kaladin her sword, he's like, I think she's a Radiant, and she's obviously like been through a lot of stuff like I have. And then she like whips out this sword, and he's like, oh shit, like she's further along as a Radiant than even I am. And I'm actually progressing. And I feel like he learned a lot from that moment.
When Kaladin's moping in the weeping, he's like, Syl is dead, but it's fine. They have Shalon. She'll probably be better than I was anyways. Yeah.
Meanwhile, Shalon's like, where the fuck is this place?
Yeah, and then the second time she's talking to Dalinar, she's like, by the way, I'm a Radiant. I hope that's cool.
She brings up the whole, like, you could stab me 100 times and I'll be fine, a couple of times throughout the books.
Yeah. I'm probably the most resilient person here.
Yeah, she's very confident in that.
I was gonna say that weird tangent, but I think it's interesting that like Sanderson like did as much like I can't have Kaladin touch the sword because then he'll start hearing screams, and that would probably like send some red flags towards people, because he doesn't touch the sword when he kills Amaram. He doesn't touch the sword when they're practicing, I think.
No, he doesn't touch it at all
Yeah.
until he catches it in the arena fight, I believe.
Yeah,
and he
in the
hears
arena
scream.
fight. In the arena fight, he does the blade catch, and that's when he hears it.
But
Yeah.
he doesn't.
I recall.
I didn't connect it with the sword necessarily. I thought
Ooh.
something was happening in the cell, and I was super
I
confused.
did too. I thought it was still
That screen comes later.
Wait,
Yeah.
I actually guessed this one. I throw out a lot of predictions, but this is the one where I got right. Where I said shard blades are dead sprin. I don't think I said this on recording, so no one can believe me. But I said it to Bradley once upon a time.
And that's a good call.
Yeah.
Now I did also think that like Paladin would have to kill Syl to make his own sword because they mentioned forging a new sword.
Mm-hmm.
I am glad to be wrong there, and that Syl can just turn into a sword, spear,
The
shield.
sword
knife.
is forged with friendship, not death,
man.
Willer. Please.
Please.
Yeah, I suppose so.
I like that. I was just like, I'm pretty sure the Parshindy are just a hive mind that communicate via songs. I thought that was a really neat way of their society. But is that all our moments? Do we want more questions?
I have one honorable mention moment.
Yeah.
I just thought Moraes' introduction was like the coolest. I was terrified of this guy whenever he
This
was
is
being
the
introduced.
Ghost Blood, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because like I go in there and I'm just like, I feel like if there's a slight breeze, this guy's gonna decide to try and kill Shalon, and I was so scared of him, and I thought that was really cool.
He
Doesn't
does,
he-
doesn't he?
Doesn't he have the blow dart gun
Yeah.
out at like he
Yes.
pointed at her the whole time? That's funny.
Yeah.
He burns down her carriage when she leaves and kills
Yeah.
everyone inside.
Jesus. Yeah.
That's when Shalon's like, "Oh shit, I'm in pretty deep."
Yo, I
right
got y'all. Part 1 of book 3. A lot of shit happens in it. Like, oh my
Yeah.
god, it's kind of for dick.
Some might say too many shits.
Yeah, a lot of shits. But yeah.
All of it in Shardblade too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, dude, that scene was fucking hilarious.
Yo,
The
that was just
flirting.
Shalon and Adolin's date was just some genuinely good romance.
Yeah, it was.
I loved that, man.
Like, she's not like the other girls, but not in a cringy like Mimi way. It's just true, and that's what Adolin needed.
He's just weird.
Yeah. I really like halfway through, I think it's like book 4 when we don't know Adolin's in prison. They're like texting each other about what they were doing.
Oh yeah, through span reads.
Yeah, and for
Wow.
some reason I thought of the meme of like the guy and the girl like on bed like texting each
On the
other.
bed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that also just there was just one like micro moment that I thought was so funny because you know, they live in a world where normally communication would probably take weeks or months.
Mm-hmm.
But then the moment Shalon has access to a span read, if she has to wait more than a minute, she's like, oh my god, this is taking forever. And then she has that conscious thought. She's like, oh yeah, I'm sorry that this instant long distance communication isn't going fast enough.
She's definitely a millennial ass girl
Yeah,
living
she
in the
just
past.
became a. She
So
became
did we
like
find out who was writing for Adolin?
I think it was probably just some fucking scribe or some bullshit, you know.
His side piece.
Yeah.
Oh
so,
no.
like, probably like statistically, it's probably an ex-girlfriend.
I know
Yeah.
one of the girls he broke up with.
Statistically. I also want, speaking of, to go back on Brandon Sanderson's like world building, I think he does a really good job of, so I think with what makes like modern fantasy very hard to write is that we as a society have advanced so far in technology that some things that would be considered fantastical are a little bit like are not as fantastical anymore, like instant communication with each other. So I think he does a really good job of like taking the concepts that we like take for granted here and integrate them into his writing so that they fit narratively and they don't feel like they don't feel like cop-outs, you know?
Like Deus Ex.
Yeah. And it's
That's
so
a really good point, Joe.
yeah, because it's hard like today. Like if you told any like 5-year-old today, like imagine if you couldn't text anybody. I don't think they could wrap their brain around it. Like
Say,
it's
I'll talk to them through Fortnite.
yeah.
Yeah, right.
So I think he does a really good job of like just taking like the modern setting or things in the modern world and transferring them to his books and making them plot relevant, and so that way it gets you more ingrained because you're able to connect it more to your own world and not be separated.
Yeah, I think I mentioned this before, but shard plate is his idea of power armor in a fantasy setting. Like he's like, power armor's cool. How can I make this fantasy?
So
and there's a lot of stuff like that in these books.
And shard plate, this is just me kind of confirm things. Like it regrows, right? Like it has the ability to like shatter or break, and then it just regrows itself. Okay.
It needs Stormlight though. You have to like replace the gems.
Yeah.
In the
Man,
back.
I wonder what fuckery that is. Is that like just skinned Parshindi that they like shove crystals into?
That's a good point. I haven't stopped to think about the shard plate and what that could be.
Interesting. We'll talk about that later.
Hey, wait, and also Kaladin wraps the glove around himself, and there's no yelling, so he touches shard plate.
Yeah.
So it's not a dead spring.
Wow, Willer.
Wow.
I can piece things together too.
You're asking too many questions.
Let's move on then.
Says it?
No. Okay, next question. What lingering questions do you have?
Yo. Well,
we asked this last time, and I think that was one of the most fun discussions.
Okay, I could start here, because also... So, the way that this book wraps up, I feel like this book is the ultimate follow-up to everything set up in book 1.
Uh-huh.
And you can feel like so many plot threads actually wrap up here to where, like, as soon as I finished this book, I got worried about book 3 because, like, oh, we're going to have to establish so much new stuff to keep the plot going because we wrapped up so much stuff in this book. I think Brandon Sanderson makes that very explicit when he starts introducing brand new characters to be future antagonists and revive Zeth and all that, like a couple chapters after his death. So... The only questions that they haven't answered that I feel like the first book's really posed and focused on is, of course, the stuff with Dalinar's wife, Dalinar's flashback, of course, Zeth flashback, which I'm assuming that'll be book 4, by the way we're going, and then those are the major things that come to my mind. And of course, the end of this Parshendi human conflict. That's of course going to be a overlying. I mean, there are still Parshendi left, so it's not like they all got wiped out by that storm. So we still got to deal with them somehow. So those are my 3 big ones.
You don't think they got wiped out?
Maybe I got because I was like, man, Eshonai totally won, and then you're like, no, Eshonai lost. It's like she started the Everstorm, but then you're like, well, half of them died. So.
Before the storms came, and they all lost their minds.
My biggest question is, like, they're gods, and, like, what the hell that all means, you know? Like, bringing them back, and what banished them, and, like, what are they trying to do, and that...
What happened in the Void Century, Joe?
Yeah.
Desolations.
Oh, and that might just be a series-long thing, but, like, it's the part where it's... Because it's very active of, like, the Parshendi noblemen, like chapter 1, I think, when we had this prologue, which was, I think, Yasna at the day Gavilar died, was the Parshendi, like, you cannot bring our gods back, we will not allow it. And it's just kind of a weird, like, that's strange and interesting to think about, because it's, like... The attachment to, like, gods is, like, definitely something where it's, like, there's kind of, like, a reflection upon yourself on the gods, like, throughout, like, human history and culture. So the idea here is that they're so afraid of their gods that my initial thought is that they're destructive, and so you think you're a destructive force, you know? So I'm just very interested to see, like, where that all goes. And then I think shard play, which we already discussed, because... If there's something up with fucking shard blades, there's something up with shard plate, honor blades and how they were formed, and like what happened to all of that, and like why aren't those dead, but they don't have their people that they're bonded with. Also, fucking King T man, Taravangian.
Oh man,
like
the reveal with what he was up with him was nuts.
Like, what's up with his dementia, Alzheimer's, and like what the hell's happening?
Well, that's Night Watcher stuff, right? So I think that'll tie into like when we find out how that works with Dalinar.
Yeah.
Night Watcher, what?
The lady who gives you curses. Magic. I'm
All
not
Might.
crazy, right? That's her name.
That sounds right, actually.
The one that took his memories you're talking about?
Yeah, it's Night Watcher.
Yeah,
Cool.
those are my things.
Next,
Well,
what do you got, Bradley?
so I got some lingering questions. Like for example, I want to know more about the different factions of Spren because, like, oh, I know cryptics are a thing, but I don't necessarily know what makes cryptics different from other Spren or why they like lies so much. And I feel like there's so much going on in the Spren world. Like for example, Wendell is always talking about like, oh, I was a gardener. And I was like, so there's just like dead ass civilizations in Shadesmar and like stuff like that.
That's a good point. I'm sure we'll get like a extended Shadesmar.
Yeah.
And on a note on that question, Bradley, because I noticed this while I was reading Edge Dancer, like Wendell does always talk about him being a gardener, and one of Lift's powers is regrowth. And so I thought it was really interesting because then I started thinking about it. And I'm like, okay, well, Syl is a wind spren, and Kaladin can use the powers of the wind. So I thought it was interesting how it's like the spren they're bonded with makes them have the powers they have. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and Shalon's a pathological liar.
Yeah, exactly.
My
so
superpower.
I'm
So-
really interested to see more of Shadesmar as well.
Lift is a small child that's going to grow infinitely.
Yeah, and then I guess one of the other things that are less questions and more just like what I'm excited to see in the future
Okay.
is like I want to meet more of the heralds because obviously the one we've met the most is, and he has like 3 different names, but Nail, is that how people say it?
Yeah, I think.
I thought it was really interesting. Like he's the Herald of Justice, and in Edge Dancer they do a lot of debating on like the nature of they do like a lot of discussion on like the nature of justice and how it should be enforced. And at one point, Lift even calls him like he is like if justice had an incarnation. And I just want to know if all of the other heralds are like that, like they just embody some concept, because that's really interesting to me. And then the other thing I'm just excited to see in the future is what happens to Zeth, because number one, I love him, and I just love this idea of like characters who have had everything they were working for or everything they were believed like turned on their head, and it's like, oh, what comes next for them? Obviously Zeth is nothing. I'm not gonna say nothing, but he's not that like Zuko from Avatar, but he's in a similar place to Zuko where it's just like he's at such a huge low point. It's like, oh, you know, everything I ever trusted or was working for is wrong. So he's like, what the fuck do I do now? And he's working with one of the heralds who I find fascinating. So I'm just like, man, I can't wait to see what they get up to.
Well,
Controversial take.
yeah.
My gut reaction to Zeth getting revived was annoyance. I actually thought that would have been a really cool way to kind of subvert and end that character's story in just the lowest. Like you find out everything you were fighting for was a lie, and then you get fucking killed. So I was like, oh man, I don't know how I should feel about the future of Zeth's character, but I'm sure Brandon Sanderson will turn me around.
That's the thing. It was like I was like, whatever Brandon Sanderson does, I'm at this point, I'm just confident whatever his plan is a good plan.
Quick tangent then in between this is, do y'all think Zeth is being set up as a good character or like an evil character?
So
I feel like mine is gonna be kind of biased because I read Edge Dancer.
Yeah, that's exactly the same thing. Like at the end of book 2, I was like, oh, he's joining Darkness's faction. And while Darkness might have good intentions, this could lead Zeth to do a lot more bad things. But I'm actually a lot more hopeful after reading Edge Dancer, I think.
Really?
I don't know. Yeah.
I haven't read Edge Dancer, but I'm also hopeful for Zeth because I feel like if you're gonna keep him around, it's because he's going to fight alongside us one day, and not maybe as, hey, Zeth is our friend now, but final fight it's us versus them, destruction versus like our survival. Zeth's gonna help us out, kind of
Yeah,
scenario.
what I'm picturing in the future is just like a group of like 10 characters, and they're like, oh, we have one of each of our knights radiant, and then I guess Zeth is going to be the like designated skybreaker. I don't know. That's what the nail people are, right?
Yeah. That is
So
correct.
another question I have is who is the thing that talked to Zeth at the end of his last chapter in book 2? Because I thought it was a Sprin, but Ryan told me that's not a Sprin. Yeah.
Wait, what? Okay, cool. It definitely sounded like it was a Spring awakening and
Yeah.
talking to him.
So unless Ryan lied to me, but
I mean,
honestly,
I
I'm
would
not
never
gonna
lie.
lie.
Or be wrong.
would
Do you
like
remember
to-
the Night Watcher first try?
Yeah. All right, we can go back to lingering questions.
I believe Kelsey.
Go went.
Did you go?
Oh no, I haven't gone. I don't know that I have like a ton of just overwhelming questions because I kind of just read and hope that they'll be answered. I think one question I have is how Shalon and Kaladin's relationship is going to change if
Yeah.
Yeah.
he finds out that he was actually the one to kill the supposed brother.
oh,
Yeah.
Since that's not like 100%, I guess, confirmed. But I'm
think it
interested to
is.
see if she'll find out, how she'll find out, and how it'll affect everything.
Yeah, I hope that's not too annoying. Like, I hope she it's one thing that I can criticize book 2 for is the prolonging of plot points.
Yeah.
Such as, hey, Nirvani's not ready to talk yet because that's a part 5 plot point, so we gotta wait a little while. So we're just gonna stretch this out. And like Kaladin's not ready to talk to Dalinar until a certain point of the book. So it has like these things where it's like it's because it's supposed to come at a certain climax.
Yeah.
We need to hold on to it. I hope that that's not what a thing where it's like they hold on to it the whole book and then they finally talk about it
Yeah.
clear up their misconceptions over that event.
But it's the irony because she has the liar Sprin and she doesn't know he's lying. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think another like just major gonna be a plot point is just Jasna returning and how long that takes and what information she has
My
that
girl.
the team doesn't have.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm also interested in just like overall what everyone's abilities are because we know Kaladin and Shalon's 2 powers, but I feel like we're still learning what the others are. and
yeah.
those, of course,
I'm so interested in Renarin's powers.
Same. Like
yeah, I have a theory just from reading part 1, like halfway through part 1 in book 3, like what his second power is. But I'm not 100% sure yet, and I have no idea what Dalinar's
Hold
is.
on to that.
I still have no fucking idea. Like I'm just like I don't know what you do, my dude.
Or is social awkwardness.
Yeah, that's basically it. I'm more excited to see what he does more than Dalinar because Dalinar's like bondsmith. I'm like, okay, so you're going to like be able to like forge lasting relationships between people. I think that's going to be your ultimate like superpower ability. You create the super friends.
Do you mean like a general superpower or is just like his character trait?
I think it's just his character.
And-
Okay.
But yeah, like I don't know because like bondsmith, I'm like, all right, I think yours is going to be more like diplomatic based on like how that's
He
described.
does feel very much the leader of the group.
Yeah.
So I
Leader
think
of the bunch.
oh
yeah,
yeah.
You know
I
him
feel
well.
like it's kind of I don't know. what
Oh
we're
my
looking
god,
for, but
DK.
maybe.
Dalinar Colin.
Shit.
Oh my god.
Holy
Sanderson,
shit.
you're a genius. This is not planned.
It's just Donkey Kong 64!
Oh my god! We figured it out. So now we can extract. Oh, the ending fight is gonna be a boxing match. Okay, rule.
So is Adolin Funky Kong?
Oh yeah.
No, he's
You know it.
he's the big
Wait, but
himbo
it's so much
Donkey
right
Kong.
now.
No, this is
Anywho.
Sanderson's true purpose.
Yeah.
Dixie Kong's clearly Shalon.
So odd. Yeah. She can like fly in helicopter. Fuck, I forgot we were talking about. Oh.
Expectations.
Yeah, Renarin's powers. Like Renarin's powers are ones I think it's gonna be interesting because he's such the meek character that whatever he does, I feel like the stereotypical thing is that he's gonna be like Ahriman,
Yeah.
from like Attack on Titan, you know? Like
Yeah,
it's
he
gonna
gives
be
me
that.
an Armin, and which is a positive thing, but also a Brandon Stark, which is not as positive.
Yeah. But hopefully it's more on one
Yeah.
side rather than the other. But like I feel like his
Uh,
power is gonna explode. Like it's gonna be like huge.
Side tangent.
Mhm.
We isn't it great like how Renarin is so into being into Bridge 4 and how they've accepted
Yeah.
him as a Light Eyes. I think that's so wholesome.
He's so adorable.
Truly.
Their own little pet light eyes.
Oh, don't say it like that.
Don't say it like that.
And then I think one other thing to note that I'm interested in how it's going to affect, I guess, the future relationships that Adolin has is that his dad and his brother are Radiance, but he is not, as of now, at least that we know of. So
Yeah.
I'm curious to see
Yeah.
if it's going to affect anything.
Yeah.
Just because he is kind of arrogant,
Mhm.
kind of like, well, why didn't they choose me kind of thing. Could see that going through his head.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in
Those
that.
are all
Now-
really good points, and I like how you're very focused on the social side.
Maybe it's
A
gonna
lot
be
of
like
the other
a,
questions are on like the magic side, but Kelsey's like the relationships and the
Yeah.
character building.
Mhm.
I don't
Anakin
read
Skywalker vibes.
much anymore.
No,
but I
those are
feel
very
like
good
these
points.
books are just doing such a good job of building the world, building the characters. I feel like the magic system is kind of secondary to all of that. Whereas normally in fantasy books, the magic's like the forefront of what's the conflict. And I feel like this one, it's just kind of helped building up who the characters are and who the world is. So
Oh,
Yes,
that's what I
therapy
really
magic.
enjoy about this book.
Yeah.
I think
The
with
magic is the therapy.
Yeah, it's just like magic is there. It's just it's cell phones. It's it's the normal parts of the world, and how you interact with it is kind of what.
The important part.
Yeah. So
with Adolin, I think I would hazard that he's not going to be too salty about this because he will be one of like the secondary Knights of Radiant where like he gets the trickle down power like Lopin.
Mm.
I'm guessing he's going to get it from Renarin as opposed to like the Bridgeman getting it from Cal.
yeah.
Regardless, what I do fear, and I should have brought this up, is Adolin going down a dark path.
That's what
feel
I
like
was
it's
gonna
being
say.
Really
Yeah.
foreshadowed, because he kills Sadius. God bless.
Oh.
Useless antagonist out of the picture.
We haven't even mentioned that yet. Wow.
Oh yeah. We
Yeah, 'cause
had.
fuck him. But I feel like murdering someone, not being the honorable Colin, not living up to his father, not being a
Mhm.
Radiant. I feel like that might wrap up in a way that leads him down a dark road, and then what's
True.
really gonna kill him is when Shalon breaks his heart, and I am not ready for
Willard,
it.
don't say that.
Y'all,
It's so going to happen.
Book
It's so
3?
going to happen.
No.
Book 3 is just Revenge of the Sith. That's it.
Oh my god.
I like Adolin. I genuinely have the high ground. I can fly. I'm
Ah! Jumps up like can't reach him. Oh.
I'm
You
ready to
underestimate my
Shalon
sword
Adolin.
stance.
yeah, and like, and then like it's gonna be a Kaladin Shalon thing. It's gonna break his
No.
heart. It's gonna, of course, you already know.
Willard,
The-
no, I want
it's all
Shalon
set
and Adolin
up.
to be together. That's who I'm rooting for is Shalon and Adolin.
I don't. If there is to be a dark turn, I could see it being
Shallow
that.
I know, you're
Kaladin.
probably not wrong, but
Kaladin.
That could be
Willard.
either one of them.
no.
Wait, Shaladin makes sense for both. of them.
Oh shit.
Flawn.
Were those your questions, Willer? Your lingering questions?
Well, I mentioned some earlier. It was mostly about the backstories. I want to see Zeth and Dalinar's, but yeah, that is the other
Yeah.
one.
Is that everyone then?
I think so.
All
You
right.
can't say your lingering questions because
Unless you
No.
remember what you thought back then, but it's fine.
Nah, I'll skip that. This one.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we can move on to the last and most important question, which will definitely be graded like last time.
Oh no.
And it's the same question. What do you think Sanderson's theme is, and is it the same as book one?
Guys, it's gotta be honor, right? It's honor. Like, just I think it's
Partially, yes.
kind of about the content of your character.
Mm-hmm.
What you do when no one else is looking. I think, and I think applying that honor equally and not just like whenever it suits you. But that could be what I'm saying is probably a lot more Kaladin centric.
Yeah.
But that's just because I love him. But that's what I got. Like this book's about honor.
The Shalon's theme is about being true to yourself, I feel like, and lies and truth and that whole thing. And how her character might like start losing herself within lies potentially, I feel like is a foreshadow thing, not necessarily a theme. And then with Dalinar, shit. I mean, I feel like they all have something like that, where like it relates to their sprint. Can't really pin down Dalinar's. There's got to be an overarching one that I have to think about.
So what I got from the book on kind of as a whole, all the characters, it's just how you take what's happening now and how you move forward with it. And like how you move forward with it will kind of, I guess, determine how you have perspective in the future. I feel like all of theirs, especially knowing Kaladin's story already and going through Shalon's and just him realizing like, oh shit, she's got it way worse than I did. But how do I use like what I've gone through to make myself better? And then the same thing with kind of the cleanse in the when he does get Syl back, kind of like, you know, I use TN and how I relate that to the world now and go forward knowing that everybody else has a TN too. Like everybody else has someone they want to protect, and how can I do better? So that was kind of my thing. I don't know if that made sense, but just like overarching, like there are things that have happened in your past and there are things that are going to happen in your future, and how do you relate the two? Do you want to go back or do you want to go forward with that hope?
I think if I had to pick one, I just sat here and thought about it for a little bit. It would be, and ironically, the one who delivers this the best is our best boy Alucard. It's how to be a hero in your own way, how to do your part. And I think this works well because the climax of the book is alternating viewpoints in which each main character gets to do a heroic act and like save the world essentially, because the Everstorm would have been much worse if they didn't do what they did. And how no matter what your past is, you can be a hero today if you step forward. I feel like that applies very well to
like
the
that
finale, so I might go with that.
Bradley.
I did Bod first.
Oh.
I think it's
I
honor.
think it was Joe.
Joe. Good job, Bradley.
Yes. So like I was thinking about this the entirety of the book, and I might have just overthought it, and so my brain capacity just exploded in trying to process it as a single one. But like I think more in line with like what Willer said, and like it's just like everyone has their own troubles and everyone has their own issues, so you can't fully understand what someone's going through, but you know what you are going through, and so you need to like basically be able to figure out your own problems, and that way you can help others out. But that's yeah.
Because it's like everyone has their own problems, but I think it also highlights that everyone has their own strength, because everyone's climax, they weren't all combat oriented, because Shalon and Renarin were very knowledge oriented and stepping up to solve this puzzle with Navani. And Dalinar had leadership as like his big heroic moment, just being a good leader there in the end, which the High Princes also stepped up to the plate there at the end, the two that came.
Dude, that guy that fucking took the blow at the end there was
low-key hero.
Yeah, like holy shit. That was talk about character arc in like 3 chapters.
I know.
Oh my god.
Just when the other High Princess showed up with Dalinar, that was such a great moment.
I think
even Sabario's lazy ass, I felt so proud of him being there.
Sabario's a great character.
When his name came up, all I could think about is the airport pizza place where I get pizza every time I leave Orlando. But I think, like, to bring up a point that, like, at the end there, none of the heroes are really together. Like, of our 4 main heroes, like Adolin, Dalinar, Kaladin. Did I say 4? I mean 3. Like, they're all doing 3 separate things, but together by, like, dealing with their own issues, they're able to, like, make sure everyone else can get out of it together.
Yeah, they succeed
Mhm.
by all doing their one designated cool task.
Yeah.
And I mean, Alucard straight up comes up to Cal and it's like, how do I be a hero? Like, how
Yeah.
can you teach me? And I feel
Yeah.
like the way book 3 is going, they're following through with some of this
Mhm.
heroism stuff. Maybe they'll subvert this later and be like, there are no heroes, Honor's dead.
I think
but-
like especially with Alucard, like he finally comes to terms with the fact that like he's not a good king and that he may never live up to his like father's like previous life.
He
and-
needs to try.
But yeah, he just needs to try, and he needs to know like what he can and cannot do. All right, I'm done.
Good job.
Ryan, what are the grades? Give it to us straight.
I think y'all all hit like a lot of the themes that Sanderson's moving forward with this book. But I think the winner this week is Kelsey.
Oh,
Hello.
But again, this isn't like the theme. This is just what I think the theme is, and I closely align with Kelsey. And I would consider this theme almost a sequel of Book One's theme.
Mm-hmm.
If y'all remember Bradley's talk, but I feel like
Yeah.
this heavily focuses on the past, and you can't completely erase the past, but what really matters is how you move forward.
Mm-hmm.
How you make your own future better without letting your past define you. And you see that with every single character. Shalon is the most obvious. You know, she's done terrible things and she's trying to make up for it. Another great one is Dalinar, who has done terrible things. And he was a warrior, and now he's trying to change to be the complete opposite of a warrior.
Boy, did he.
And so that's a big theme with him. And I won't get into every character, but that's how I saw the theme is, you know, don't let the past define you. Keep moving forward. Take the next
With-
step.
With Cal, it's more of his past prejudices and how he's been hurt
Mm.
and moving through that, I feel like.
Yeah, trusting Shalon and Adolin, building relationships, and deciding to save everyone.
Mm-hmm. We all graduate, right? We can move on.
We'll
But I
talk about
refuse.
that in private.
Oh, no.
All right. Well, is that all your questions, Ryan?
Yeah,
All right.
that was a great discussion.
All right.
Yeah.
Free talk. Can we talk about how Relaine is very cool and the sweetest
Yes.
boy?
yeah, that was
When he
I-
came back,
Cool.
that was so good. Seeing him
be
come
honest.
back.
Be honest with me, y'all. Did y'all forget about him before he came
No,
back?
No,
no.
I didn't.
I was wondering what the fuck he was doing, and then they said there was a lone Parshindi, and I was like,
Yes, my boy.
Oh,
Relaine is the true Parshindi.
The scene where Relaine. Yeah, that's true. He's not taking over right now, right?
Mhm.
He's still.
Well,
a
that and the. I don't know. That might be a slight spoiler.
We'll save it. But the scene where he and Kaladin are talking, he's like, Relaine, you asked me earlier, and I didn't really know how to answer. But no, you're not a slave. I've come
I
to terms. Like you
know.
are
Mhm.
Bridge 4, truly.
oh,
Here's a spear, and he's like, you are a good man.
man.
I Go
Go
ahead.
ahead, Joe.
Oh,
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say like speaking of like past prejudices, like that was the first like prejudice that like Kaladin had to get over was with the Parshindi, and the Parshmen. But yeah.
I have bad feelings for Relaine's future because I feel like as this conflict gets more complex, things aren't gonna go well for our sweet boy. But I hope I'm wrong.
It does get more complex,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Something that I've been thinking about since we first heard "Unite Them" from Dalinar.
Unite them.
So Dalinar thinks "Unite Them" means the city or all the head princes
Yeah.
and getting them all on the same page. For some reason, I've always thought it's unite them between the Parshindi and the humans.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's
Ooh.
going to come into play, but that's always what I think when I'm like, no, that's not what they're telling you, Dalinar. Like,
Now that you mention it, I think it's unite all of humanity, which might be too
Yeah.
lofty. But I just connected that religion of the hand, where everyone's like a finger, living a shared experience.
Mm-hmm.
There might be something to that if unite them is a global thing. I don't know.
Man,
Yeah.
y'all should read more of book 3 because shit gets wild.
Hey, I'm not that far away from you, okay? I'm close. I'm like on chapter 20.
hey, what do you do?
I'm on like chapter 30, gang.
I've been ahead of Kelsey for a little while, and I'm on top of the world.
I've been taking my time, okay? I wanted
Good.
to make sure that I didn't spoil anything in this talk, or like
Yeah.
in my perspective of the book, knowing what happens later. If that makes sense. So I
Yeah, I
wanted
didn't
to
want to.
not
I
get
didn't
too
want
far.
to taint.
I
Yeah, taint like the discussion.
I feel like I'm the only person here that like right off the bat was just really vibing with Oathbringer. Like Dalinar was
No,
like,
I was so ready. I've been egging Bradley and Willard to finish this damn book so
I
could read it.
well, like I read like Dalinar's like first flashback, and then like the chapter immediately after that, I was like, oh, I'm already digging like everything about Dalinar in this book, and I'm just immediately ready to go. Like this is a like people call this dry, but this to me is like fascinating to see this man and how he operates. But
It's just exactly what I expected, and then on the modern storyline, I do think it's kind of messily not the execution isn't messy, but it's just messy by default because Brandon Sanderson has to set up all the new plot threads that
Yeah.
are going to be like the book 3, book 4 plot threads. So I feel like around the part 3 mark, it's going to really pick up, but it's definitely going to be set up for a long time.
honestly, for me, my biggest worry is what book 4 is about, because like I don't see how the conflict that's happening right now extends 5 books, but we'll see what happens, especially at the pace that we've been going.
Well, and y'all, if y'all didn't know this is Ryan's favorite book. Book 3 is.
Yeah.
So.
Yes.
Anyways, catch us next time in about 4.5 months. So, you know, maybe around Christmas, maybe after New Year's.
It'll better not take that long.
Oh man, I just want to finish this series so Kelsey can never be disappointed in me.
We'll catch you next time in Roundabout Book Club. But until then, Ryan, did you do your taxes yet?